Dawn crept over the frozen Montana prairie, dull and gray, washing the land in cold light. Caleb Thorne rode the fence line, his breath white against the wind. He'd been up before sunrise, checking for breaks after last night's storm. The blizzard had left the world in silence, just the groan of ice settling and the creak of his saddle leather. He leaned forward, urging his mare through the drifts, when something caught his eye in the distance. A dark shape stood near the creek bed, motionless against the snow. Caleb slowed. As he drew closer, his stomach turned. A horse, reins tangled around a cottonwood branch, its coat slick with frost. The animal shifted weakly, eyes rolling with fear. No rider, no wagon, just the wind whistling low through the bare branches. He dismounted, boots crunching through the ice crust. The cold bit through his gloves as he reached for the reins, soothing the mare with a quiet voice. "Easy, girl, easy now." That's when he heard it. A sound so faint he thought the wind was fooling him. A soft, ragged breath. He turned, crouched low, and there, under the roots of the tree, half buried in snow, lay a child. A boy, no older than 5, wrapped in a blue baby blanket stiff with frost. Caleb's heart lurched. He knelt, brushing the snow away from the boy's face. The lips were blue, eyes shut tight, skin pale as wax. For a moment, Caleb thought he was too late. Then, the boy's chest rose, shallow and trembling. Pinned to the blanket was a scrap of paper, edges curled and wet. He peeled it loose and squinted at the words written in a shaky hand. "Please save him." The world felt smaller suddenly, as if the wind itself was holding its breath. Caleb lifted the boy into his arms. He was light, too light, and limp like a rag doll. The little hands clutched the edge of the blanket, even in sleep. Caleb's throat tightened. Whoever left him here had done it knowing death was near. He hurried back to his horse, settling the child in front of the saddle, pulling his own coat around them both. The ride back to the cabin was slow through the drifts, every step a prayer that the boy's breath wouldn't stop. By the time Caleb reached home, his hands were numb, and the boy's skin had gone almost white. The cabin door was stuck from the cold, and he kicked it open with his shoulder, snow scattering across the floorboards. Inside, the fire had burned down to embers. He laid the child on his cot and threw kindling on the coals until flames licked the logs again. He worked fast, stripping off the boy's frozen clothes, rubbing his small arms and legs with a dry cloth, wrapping him in layers of wool. The child's ribs showed through his chest, bruises yellowed along one side. Old marks, not new. Caleb's jaw tightened. Someone had done more than abandon this boy. They'd hurt him. When he touched the blue blanket again, something about it stopped him. Even damp, the fabric felt fine, smooth, the stitches small and perfect, like nothing made on the frontier. French knots lined the edge, the kind of handiwork that took months to learn. He lifted it toward the lamplight. Beneath the wool, he felt something hard and flat, paper, sealed inside the lining with wax. He set it aside and focused on the boy. "Come on, son," he murmured, dipping a rag into warm water to clean the child's face. Dirt came away in streaks. Underneath was a face too thin for his age, framed by dark hair stuck to his forehead. Caleb spooned warm broth between the boy's lips. Most of it spilled down his chin, but some went in. Slowly, the shallow breathing deepened. Hours passed before the boy's skin lost its blue tint. Caleb sat by the fire, rifle across his knees, watching the small rise and fall of his chest. Outside, the wind howled against the shutters. He hadn't held a child since before the fever took his wife and baby girl 5 winters ago. The boy stirred, eyelids fluttering. Caleb leaned forward. The child's lips moved. "Mama?" "You're safe now," Caleb said softly. "You're warm." The gray eyes opened halfway, unfocused. Mama said, "Find the oak." "What oak, son?" Caleb whispered. "Where Papa carved." The boy's hand reached weakly for the blanket, clutching the edge. "Don't leave me." "I won't." Caleb pulled the wool higher around him. "You rest now." Quote. The boy's breathing steadied, his small hands still gripping the fabric. Caleb stared at the hidden seam in the blanket. He could tear it open, see what was hidden inside. But something in him stopped. The stitching reminded him of his mother's hands, steady and patient. Tearing it apart felt wrong. Outside, the snow began again, soft, steady flakes that covered all tracks. By morning, no one would know where this boy had come from. Maybe that was mercy. At sunrise, Caleb saddled up and rode into town. The cold stung his face, the sky pale and endless. He headed for Dr. Elias Harrison's small office near the general store. The doctor listened to the boy's chest, shook his head. Lungs half flooded, pneumonia. He needs quinine, heat, and time. $40 worth of medicine, if I've got to send for more from Billings. Caleb's stomach sank. $40 was all he had set aside for spring seed. I'll have it by sundown, he said. Caleb, the doctor said gently, where'd you find him? Under a cottonwood, mile north of my fence line, alone. Quote, the doctor's gaze fell to the blue blanket. That's no frontier work. I know. You report this to the marshal? Not yet. You should. A boy that young. Someone's looking for him. Or someone left him, Caleb said quietly. Before the doctor could answer, the office door swung open. Vernon Latimer filled the frame. County surveyor. Big man, thick around the neck, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His gaze went straight to the cot where the boy lay wrapped in blue. Heard you brought in a stray, Thorne. Caleb stepped between him and the child. Found him half frozen. Generous of you, Vernon said, voice smooth but cold. Boy got a name? Didn't say. Vernon's hand brushed the blanket, then froze. For half a second his fingers trembled. Then he pulled back, jaw tight. Where exactly did you find him? By Dry Creek. Your side of the property line or mine? Didn't measure, Caleb said flatly. Vernon's eyes narrowed. Careful, Thorne. Strays tend to have owners. He turned and left, boots heavy on the floorboards. Dr. Harrison exhaled. What's Vernon want with a sick child? Caleb looked down at the boy, his hands still gripping that blue blanket. I don't know, he said, but I'm going to find out before he does. The wind cut sharper the next morning, whistling through the cracks in Caleb's cabin walls. He hadn't slept. Every sound in the night had kept him half awake. The groan of branches, the hiss of snow against the roof, the boy's rough breathing from the cot beside the fire. At first light, Caleb checked the fever. The boy's skin felt warm but not burning, a good sign. He sat beside him, spooning in broth a little at a time. The boy swallowed weakly, then drifted back into sleep, one hand still tangled in the blue blanket. Outside, a horse whinnied. Caleb's pulse jumped. He grabbed his rifle and stepped to the window. A figure dismounted near the barn, Vernon Latimer. The man moved with the confidence of someone who thought he owned the place. Caleb went to the door before Vernon could knock. You've got nerve, Caleb said, blocking the entrance. Got news, Vernon answered, his breath fogging in the cold. Stopped by the land office this morning. Seems your name's been added to the county notice board. Caleb frowned. For what? Harboring stolen property. Vernon's grin was small and mean, child and horse both. Caleb's stomach dropped. You posted that? I did, Vernon said easily. Reward for the boy's return to his rightful guardian. And that would be you? Not me. My cousin, Thomas Latimer. He holds the indenture papers. Caleb's hands tightened on the doorframe. You're lying. Maybe, but lies look an awful lot like truth when they're stamped by a county seal. Caleb slammed the door hard enough to rattle the hinges. He paced the room, rage burning through the cold. On the cot the boy stirred and whimpered. Caleb forced his breathing steady and went to him. It's all right, son. You're safe. But he didn't believe it. Not anymore. That afternoon he rode into town. Folks stared as he passed. Some looked away. Others whispered. At the land office. The proof hung right there, a fresh poster nailed to the wall. Caleb Thorne, wanted for harboring stolen property. Reward, $100. His own name in black ink. He ripped it down and stormed inside. Vernon sat behind his desk, surveyor's chain glinting beside his ledger. He didn't even look up. "Defacing a county notice is a misdemeanor," he said. Caleb threw the crumpled paper on the desk. "That boy is not stolen. He was dying out there. Doesn't change the law." Vernon closed his ledger slowly, as if savoring the moment. "Return the child and I'll forget the notice. No questions asked." "Not happening." "Then I file with the marshal." Caleb leaned forward, eyes hard. "Let me talk to this cousin of yours." Vernon's smirk didn't reach his eyes. "He's in Red Fork, won't be back till spring." He pulled a blank form from the drawer. "You could sign temporary guardianship over to me until then. Child stays warm, fed, safe." Caleb's voice was low. "You mean under your thumb?" Vernon shrugged. 3 days, Thorne. Then I go to the marshal. Quote, when Caleb returned home, Maeve Corian was waiting by the fence. Her shawl flapped in the wind, her cheeks raw from the cold. She ran the boarding house in town, the only one that didn't ask questions. "I saw the notice," she said quietly. "Vernon's poisoning the town against you." Caleb nodded. "He's got the law in his pocket." Maeve pressed a small purse into his hand. $60. "Take it." "Maeve, I can't." "You can, and you will." Her voice cracked but stayed steady. "I lost my boy 10 years ago to fever. Would have given every cent I had if someone could have saved him." She looked toward the cabin. "You saved that child. Let me help." Caleb swallowed hard, nodded. "Thank you." "Watch Vernon," she said, eyes sharp. "A man doesn't fight this hard for someone else's property unless it's really his." That evening, when Caleb rode back with the medicine, he saw Vernon's horse tied to his porch rail. His pulse spiked. He pushed through the door, rifle in hand. Vernon stood by the fire, a rolled document in his hands, sealed with red wax. "Didn't invite you," Caleb said flatly. "Didn't need an invitation." Vernon unrolled the paper and smoothed it across the table. "Eviction notice. Effective immediately. You've got 90 days to vacate." Caleb's breath caught. "What are you talking about?" "Your land," Vernon said, "belongs to me now. Territorial deed dates back to 1875, Amos Latimer's claim. My brother. Passed to me after he died. Yours dates to 1880. Guess who wins?" Caleb's jaw clenched. "That's a lie. I worked this land for 7 years." "You filed wrong," Vernon said calmly. "County records confirm it." "You're the county surveyor," Caleb snapped. "Exactly," Vernon smiled. "Which means when I say the boundaries are off, they're off." Caleb's vision blurred with anger. "Why now, Vernon?" "Why this boy?" "Because you've got something that belongs to me." Vernon's voice dropped to a near whisper. "My niece, Sarah Latimer, dead these 4 years. She had a habit of hiding things in her sewing. Clever girl. She stole something before she died, something sewn inside that blanket." Quote, Caleb's blood ran cold. "A land grant." Vernon's eyes narrowed. "A forgery. Her child's a bastard. That document was never hers. But if it ever sees daylight, every acre I own turns to dust. So here's the trade." He tapped the table. "Give me the boy and the blanket. I'll tear up the eviction. You keep your land." Caleb's voice was quiet. "No." Vernon's face turned hard as stone. "Then you've got 90 days left to watch everything you built burn." He stepped to the door. "And I'll still take the boy." The door slammed behind him. Silence filled the room except for the crackle of the fire and the faint sound of the child's breathing. Caleb looked at the eviction notice lying flat on the table. His hands trembled as he picked it up, the ink still fresh. He sat down beside the cot. The boy's fever had broken, but his face was pale, his small body fragile. Caleb brushed the hair from his forehead and whispered, "I won't let him take you." Outside, the snow fell heavier. It covered everything. The path, the fences, even the tracks leading to the cottonwood tree where he'd found the boy. By morning, the past would be buried again. At dawn, Maeve returned with a pot of chicken broth and her sharp, steady eyes. She crouched beside the cot, touching the boy's forehead. "Fever's down." "That's good." Her gaze shifted to the blanket. "Mind if I look?" Caleb nodded. She lifted the fabric to the light and traced the stitching with her fingertips. "French knots," she murmured. "This is fine work. Maybe East Coast, maybe even European. Only wealthy girls learned it." Vernon said his niece made it, Caleb said. Maeve froze. Sarah Latimer? You knew her? She lived above the mercantile 5 years ago, pregnant, no husband. Vernon turned her away. She worked herself to death. Caleb nodded slowly. Then this boy's hers. Maeve pressed her thumb to the seam, feeling the hidden pocket. If Sarah hid something in here, it's because Vernon was trying to steal it. That man's been cheating folks out of land for years. I'll prove it, Caleb said. Then you'll need help, Maeve said, eyes fierce, and proof. Just then the boy stirred. His gray eyes blinked open. He looked at Maeve, then at Caleb. Where's Mama? He whispered. Caleb knelt beside him. You're safe now, son. What's your name? The boy's lip trembled. James, Mama said. Find the oak where Papa carved our name. Maeve's eyes filled with tears. We'll find it, James, she said softly. Caleb wrapped the blanket tighter around the boy and stared into the fire, the weight of the fight ahead settling deep in his chest. Vernon wanted the land, but he wanted that boy more. And Caleb Thorne wasn't about to let him have either. The snow began to melt 2 weeks later, slow at first, then in steady streams that turned the frozen fields to mud. Caleb's cabin smelled of coffee, wood, smoke, and hope. The boy, James, was stronger now. He could sit up by the fire, eat on his own, even laugh a little when the wind rattled the windows. For a child who had been half dead, he was a miracle. But the danger hadn't passed. Vernon Latimer was still out there, and now his lies had grown teeth. Caleb's rifle hung by the door. Every knock made him tense. When the sound finally came one gray morning, 2 sharp raps and a pause, Caleb was already on his feet. He opened the door to see a tall man with a gray beard and kind eyes. His coat carried the dirt of long travel. Name's Isaac Drummond, the man said. Maeve Corian sent me. Caleb stepped aside. Come in. Inside, Isaac looked around, nodding at the warmth and order. James sat wrapped in his blue blanket, coloring on scrap paper with bits of charcoal. I hear you've got trouble with Vernon Latimer, Isaac said. More than trouble, Caleb answered. He's trying to take my land, and this boy. Isaac set down a leather case, unrolled it across the table. Inside were folded maps, yellowed at the edges. I worked for Union Pacific for 30 years. Surveyed every ridge between Omaha and Oregon. These are the original records from 1883, territorial maps, official as they come. Caleb leaned closer. The lines were neat, the handwriting clean. Here, Isaac pointed, is Latimer land, filed by Amos Latimer in 1875. But here, he moved his finger west, is Sarah Latimer's claim, registered 1882. This is your property line. Vernon's been shifting stakes. His boundary markers are off by 400 yards. Caleb's pulse quickened. You can prove that? Isaac smiled. Maps don't lie. Men do. Maeve arrived soon after, cheeks flushed from the cold. Behind her came Reverend Holcomb, his worn Bible tucked under his arm. It's time, he said softly. Judge Harlan's on circuit. He'll be in town tomorrow. Isaac rolled up the maps. Then we'll meet him with proof. That night, Caleb couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, the blanket folded neatly beside him, the hidden pocket still sealed. The boy slept soundly in the cot, breath even and peaceful. For a long time, Caleb watched the flames flicker and thought about how much had changed since that morning under the cottonwood tree. He'd found a half-frozen child, but somewhere along the way, he'd found himself again, too. At dawn, the knock came again. This time it was Marshal Tate Greer. The man's broad shoulders filled the doorway, his badge catching the light. Morning, Caleb, he said. Got a warrant here. He held up the paper. Vernon filed charges. Says you're harboring a child under false guardianship and withholding county documents. Caleb's heart sank. He's lying. Maybe, Greer said. But the warrant's signed. I've got to do something. Best I can do is take that blanket as evidence. Keeps it safe in the county vault till the judge decides. Caleb hesitated, eyes moving to James. The boy clutched the blue fabric tight in his sleep. He won't understand, Caleb said quietly. "I'll let Maeve and Isaac witness the transfer," Greer said. "No tricks." Caleb nodded slowly. He knelt by the cot. "James," he said softly, "we need to let the marshal hold your blanket for a little while." The boy's eyes opened, wide and afraid. "Mama made it." "I know," Caleb said, voice thick, "and we'll get it back, I promise." The boy's lip trembled, but he nodded and let go. Outside, the wind had softened. Maeve and Isaac stood beside Greer's horse as the marshal wrapped the blanket carefully in oiled cloth. He spoke each step aloud for the record. Folded, sealed, tied. Then he handed the witnesses the logbook to sign. When it was done, he met Caleb's eyes. "Vernon's pressing hard. But if what I've heard about that blanket's true, it'll end him." He rode off toward town, snow crunching under the hooves. Caleb stood watching until the sound faded. The air felt heavy, like the whole world was holding its breath. That night, the knock on the door came again. Not the marshal this time, Vernon. He staggered inside, drunk and desperate, eyes red-rimmed. "You think you've won?" he slurred. "You think that boy makes you righteous?" "Leave, Vernon," Caleb said quietly. "I built this county," Vernon shouted. "Every road, every fence, every deed. It's mine. Sarah stole from me. That boy's a curse." "He's her son," Caleb said, "and you let her die." Vernon's face twisted. "You don't understand. It was supposed to be mine." His voice broke. "All of it." Quote. He stumbled toward the door, muttering. When he was gone, Caleb found something lying on the porch, the surveyor's chain, coiled and cold, Vernon's pride, left behind like a confession. The next morning, Isaac, Maeve, the Reverend, and Caleb gathered at Maeve's boarding house. The judge would arrive at noon. On the table lay their proof, the maps, the church record of Sarah's marriage, the women's quilting ledger showing her tax payments, years of truth hidden under lies. James sat beside Caleb, sketching on the corner of a paper. He drew a tree, massive, split by lightning, half dead, half alive. "That's the oak," he said. "Mama said Papa carved their names there." Isaac froze. "Split oak," he murmured. He pulled out his map and traced the property line. "Here, recorded in 1881. Lightning strike noted. That tree's the landmark, dividing Sarah's claim from Vernon's. If it's still standing, that's proof." Caleb nodded. "It's still there." The sound of hoofbeats outside broke the moment. Marshal Greer entered, hat in hand. "Judge Harlan's in town," he said. "Wants to hold the hearing here at noon." Maeve's voice was calm but firm. "Then let's get ready." By midday, every seat in the boarding house was filled. The townsfolk came, some curious, some guilty. Judge Harlan sat at the head of the table, silver-haired and stern. "We're here to settle the guardianship of the child James and the property claim between Caleb Thorne and Vernon Latimer," he said. Vernon sat stiff, eyes bloodshot. Caleb felt James's small hand find his. One by one, the evidence came out. Reverend Holcomb spoke first, his voice shaking but steady. "I married Sarah Latimer to Daniel Foster in 1882, he said. "James is their son." Maeve showed the ledger. Isaac laid down his map beside Vernon's altered one, the lines clear for all to see. And Greer presented the report from Helena confirming the ink on Vernon's indenture papers was new, not 4 years old. Finally, Harland leaned forward. "Mr. Latimer, these documents prove a pattern of fraud. Do you deny it?" Quote. Vernon's mouth opened, but no words came. His face went pale. "The land," the judge said firmly, "belongs to Sarah's heir, and the boy belongs with the man who saved him." He turned to Caleb. "By authority of the territorial court, I name you guardian of James Thorne." The room fell silent. Then the Reverend whispered, "Amen." Vernon sagged in his chair, defeated. When the marshal placed irons on his wrists, he didn't fight. "She shouldn't have loved that boy," he muttered, "but she did." Later the crowd followed Caleb, James, and Isaac out to the meadow. The split oak stood there, half scarred, half alive, the carving still visible. Daniel plus Sarah, 1882. Isaac measured from the tree to the boundary stakes. 400 yards exactly, he said, just like the map. Caleb knelt beside James. This land's yours now, son. Your mama made sure of it. The boy touched the carving with small fingers, eyes bright. Can we come back here, Papa? Anytime you want, Caleb said. They left the blue blanket hanging over one of the oak's low branches, bright against the bark. A flag of peace. A promise kept. That evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, neighbors gathered at Caleb's cabin. Maeve brought stew. Isaac told railroad stories. The Reverend said grace. For the first time in years, the place felt like home. When the others left, Caleb carried James to bed, tucking him under the quilts. The boy's breathing was deep and even. Outside, the night was quiet. Caleb looked out across the land, his land, the boy's land, and thought of the woman who had sewn truth into fabric and trusted the world to be kind. We got him, Sarah, he whispered to the wind. He's safe now. The wind moved through the trees, soft as a mother's hand. The apple sapling they'd planted near the oak would bloom come summer, and the land, as Sarah once said, would remember.